I went deep into the YouTube vaults and pulled out this old-timey Mike Winger video on evidence for God from October of 2013, nearly 11 years ago. After I dusted it off, do you think I found a gem or a dud? Hi, my name is Scarlett and I'm an atheist and skeptic, and today we're back looking at Mike Winger. Vintage Mike Winger. Musty Mike Winger. Hey, Musty Mike, new nickname alert. And if you think this guy is a curious 21st century dude looking for the scraps of truth available on our fine blue marble, you would be mistaken. He knows the truth and has for a long time. Going back all the way, what I see is preaching about what is true and which people are mistaken. Hey, I know Mike likes Proverbs. Here's one. Proverbs 26, verse 12. Do you see a person wise in their own eyes? There is more hope for a fool than for them. So today's video from 2013 is called Evidence for God, 6 Misconceptions, Intro. I don't have more blibbity blab than that. I'll let Mike take it from here.
In this video, I'll be introducing a new series I'm doing called Evidence for God.
Bible thinker.
What piece of snark could I say that would top the hilarity of that intro? The singing toddler voice layered over the head of someone who apparently has ingested a Bible, or it's growing like a tumor. I don't know. I'm reminded of that scene from the Book of Mormon, the musical. There's an x-ray of the Book of Mormon up someone's butt. Anywho, there's also those sound effects layered over evidence for God. Gunshots, maybe? Then a whoosh. Truth bombs being dropped. Let's watch that again.
God. Bible thinker.
Oh gods, that is so funny. Cute plus badass, the best combo ever. Okay, so now from his black void, Mike Winger is going to drop some truth on us. Let's go, let's hear it. Truth bombs away.
When asked about why they don't believe in God, atheists and agnostics often respond with the phrase, the total lack of evidence for God.
I would simply qualify this with good evidence, but go on.
The problem with a phrase like that is that there's actually a lot of good evidence for belief in God. And when an atheist or agnostic or anybody says the total lack of evidence, they're simply ignoring the evidence, not responding to it, but ignoring it, acting as though it doesn't exist.
You won't be surprised to know that these so-called proofs have been dealt with. But if someone asks me why I don't believe in God, I'm not going to go into hours-long disquisitions on what I have heard. I mean, if I haven't been convinced of something and I've dismissed it in my head, I'm just going to say I don't accept any of the evidence. But if you want to ask me about a particular piece of evidence, we'll talk. Winger is now going to drop his proofs of God on us. Please feel free to pause my video right now and imagine what Winger has.
In this series, I'm going to lay out, in the best way I can, some of the most compelling evidence for God's existence. We'll deal with the cosmological argument, we'll deal with the moral argument, the fine-tuning argument, infinite regression, issues like the problem of evil, and of course, particle physics and power ties.
So, not proof then, arguments. We have our old faves, the cosmological, the moral, the fine-tuning, the problem of evil. They all leave us wanting. They do not prove God. They are layered on top of somebody else's belief to give sort of an intellectual flavor to their belief. And even if they did prove God, they don't point to any particular God, just a generic God. And then the problem of evil is especially funny to me because you have to define evil as a something, an energy, a force that needs to be vanquished by the deity. For me, the problem of evil is different. It is about why the triomni God allows suffering. But Christians think evil is the devil who needs to be defeated in some Marvel-style end times fantasy. Infinite regress, to me, is just an argument from ignorance. I don't know how we could keep going back infinitely, so God is the ultimate backstop. But the universe doesn't owe you the requirement to make intuitive sense to you. There's a lot we don't know about the singularity that expanded into our universe, what might be beyond or before our universe, if these things even make sense. It's just better to say we don't understand. And particle physics? Must have missed those headlines about how particle physics totes proves God. I'm not sure. I think this is about the idea of an observer in that double slit experiment, God as the ultimate observer. All right, so this is the gobbledygook that continues to be trotted out as evidence for God. It's not going away, folks, so strap in. Shit never dies in Christopologetics. Like in creationism. Some dumb shit that was debunked when Neanderthals walked the earth will be presented with some shit-eating grin by some grifter who doesn't care about the truth. But please send money. Okay, so no evidence, but let's look at these misconceptions.
By the end of the series, I think that you will find that belief in God is the most rational position to hold based on the facts.
Sure, Jan.
But before I get started, I need to clear up 6 misconceptions that might keep someone from following this evidence. It may be helpful in the future to have this video available to refer people to when they're harboring one of the following misconceptions.
Someone sure had a lot of fun with the sound effects in iMovie. Oh, the irony of this headline. 6 misconceptions that kill rational thought. I think it's time for another proverb. This is Proverbs 28, verse 26. Those who trust in themselves are fools, but those who walk in wisdom are kept safe. Yeah. All right, let's hear those misconceptions.
Misconception number 1, that we need to answer every question all at once. Some people reject sound reasons for faith in God because of other questions they have that are unrelated. Let's suppose I give the cosmological argument for God's existence, and somebody responds by bashing the Bible. Well, there's really no point to do that. You see, the cosmological argument is unrelated to the Bible. The Bible has no bearing on it. And so it's just a change of the subject that's not going to help our conversation. It'd be like me responding to an argument for atheism by saying, Stalin was an atheist. Look what he did.
You suck, man. I hate that guy.
Hate to break it to you, Mike Winger, but Christians do that all the time.
That's inflammatory, yes. It's emotionally charged, yes. But it's also completely irrelevant. And so changing the subject only serves to confuse people. We want to keep on topic and not miss the point of the argument that's been presented. So in the comment section, let's please keep it on topic. And those of you who read comments, just simply notice if someone is doing misconception number 1 and point it out for the world to see.
So on this misconception, answer all my questions at once. One of my thoughts is, has Mike Winger observed human communication? We do interrupt each other, and we have our own priorities. Unless we're doing a formal debate, we go in all directions. We don't take turns. But I have to say, bringing up the Bible could be apropos of one of these arguments. Like, let's say you're talking about the cosmological argument, and someone counters with the events of Genesis, saying in effect that the Bible does not support what the models propose. That is on topic. If you are talking about the moral argument, and people bring up biblical morality, that is on point. Like, you get your theology from the Bible, so people can bring up something from the Bible that is on point. But I just have to say these so-called proofs for God are not that strong, so some people will just shrug at them and want to move to a new point, something that's more worth talking about. Mike wants to control the conversation and maybe win through the power of just shut up already. And I get that. I hate when people interrupt me too. Anyway, Christians do this to atheist arguments all the time, so in my mind this is a people problem. Casual conversations are all over the map. But in the interest of keeping this video under an hour, let's get to point 2.
Misconception number 2. That proof should fit in a beaker or poke its head through the clouds and say,
Hello, man.
Why the focus on beakers? And silly voice effect aside, why wouldn't we expect God to communicate with us? He does that in your Bible. And more than poke his head through the clouds, he walked on earth. He talked to people. He became Jesus and spent a few decades slumming it in the Middle East. And then he supposedly ascended into heaven. And now the end times, he's supposed to return the same way. So I don't get why God can't poke his head through the clouds.
That's a strange misconception to hold. When I say I have evidence for God, what do I mean? Well, the Oxford Dictionary defines evidence as
the available body of facts or information indicating whether a belief or proposition is true or valid.
some
Oh my God. Seriously? Why? Why the bad accent? Why the bagpiper in a kilt? I just can't.
Or valid.
Some people think that the only way to show God is to dissect him in a lab, or to have some particular hoop you want him to jump through. If God does this, I'll believe in him. If God does that, I'll believe in him. But really, have you ever genuinely considered, if there is a God, what evidence would I look for to indicate his existence? Has that thought crossed your mind? It's something we need to consider if we're going to approach this subject rationally. You see, God is immaterial, and there are no scientific tests in a beaker for immaterial things.
Convenient. No scientific tests in a beaker. How about outside it?
And while science has a ton to say about the existence of God, it's myopic and irrational to think that you're going to find evidence for God that's the same as the sort of evidence that proves that the flu is caused by a virus.
So what is the misconception exactly? It says here accepting only one kind of evidence, and then he talks about several kinds of evidence. He also says science has a lot to say about this immaterial being, but what? I don't know. I think what he means is we shouldn't expect the same kind or level of evidence that we would for pretty much anything else we believe or claim to know. And I just don't know why. Some people say they have seen or heard God. Why can't we all expect that? And let's not forget that the God Mike Winger posits is all-powerful, all-knowing. He should know what to do. But let's move on to number 3.
Virus. Misconception number 3, that proof for God must reach 100% certainty. I'm not really sure that we can prove anything with 100% certainty, or even what 100% certainty actually means. I mean, at what point do you say 98, 99, 100? Now we know that gravity is the explanation. We only need to show that something is more likely true than not true to have a rational basis for believing it. Some people.
I think this is a red herring. No one is asking for like 100% certainty. But really, we should have a high level of certainty about a deity who says it wants a relationship with us and or needs us to perform some actions if we want access to the VIP after party in the sky or whatever. Like, I don't need elaborate arguments to prove my husband, friends, or cats exist. They're there. I can reach out, touch them, talk to them, hear them answer. Even when people are far away, with technology we can email or text each other, or even call on the phone, but like only when that's urgent. Otherwise, text first, seriously. Imagine if I said I believe cats exist because every so often I see a dead bird. What else could it have been? A cat must have killed it.
Some people have come up with some very fanciful imaginations in order to avoid belief in God.
So I misspeak all the time. I'm not going to ding Mike for saying fanciful imaginations when I think he means imaginings, but I'm just going to note the verbal typo here. Isn't it interesting that Mike Winger thinks people are finding fanciful stuff to avoid believing in God? We're not. It's just the evidence is not that great, my dude. This is grade A projection. Christians have to work their imaginations to prove God. But the important thing is Mike wants to create the impression in the minds of his listeners that the evidence is so solid, but believing in God is so hard. It's hardcore to believe in Jesus. It's actually a trope out there. Listen to this guy on a cross-examined Q&A.
In all this like cosmic infinity, like in all this glory and all this like purpose.
For your life.
Why is it so hard?
If this is the truth, the one thing that we are to do, and he has the will to do it and sees what's going on in his heart and in this mess, why in this one truth of all that
is the one thing that we're supposed to do so hard.
Yeah, man. Christianity is just like so hard.
To rightly defeat reasons for belief in God, though, someone needs to do two things. First, they need to show that the reason for belief in God is sufficiently flawed that it should not be followed.
So the award for shifting a burden of proof goes to Mike Winger. Hooray! It is not on the non-believer to poke holes in your beliefs. It is for you to establish that your claim warrants belief from someone else. Anyway, good luck to anyone trying to poke holes in believers' thoughts. They have some great moves to say, nuh-uh, I got it right and you got it wrong. Also, wasn't there something earlier about keeping on topic? Why are we now shifting to what non-believers should do on this conception? Oh, because we were talking about science, and science sometimes postulates or even discovers something that contradicts Mike Winger's theology. Clever, Mike Winger.
And the second thing is to provide an alternate explanation for those things that cause us to believe in God. For instance, invoking a multiverse in order to say God doesn't have to be the creator of the universe, the multiverse explains our existence, is only helpful if you can give me good reasons to believe in a multiverse and show that a multiverse doesn't also require God's existence.
LOL, can we all see the projection on display here? 1, we are off topic, which was misconception 1. 2, Mike Winger seems to need one kind of evidence. Like, Mike Winger, have you thought, but really thought about what kind of evidence would convince you of a multiverse? There is more evidence, like solid evidence, not some arguments, for a multiverse. And I'm still not convinced of a multiverse either. But now, we're also on shifting the goalposts because the cosmological argument, for example, is only about our universe. Now Mike Winger wants explanations for the cosmos. And by the way, we can still say, I don't know how any of our universe came to be, and that does not prove a God did it. Last theology standing is not the way the game of evidence works.
Misconception number 4. That any proof for God must be a hole in one. Like in a court of law, we build a case issue upon issue, evidence upon evidence, and then we stand upon that built case as this is why. These reasons are why we believe in God. Each argument that I'll present has strong merits, but no argument is meant to stand completely alone. It is the gathered case of several lines of reasoning that add so much validity to the ideas that are being presented.
Oh, so if one of your arguments is terrible and someone points that out, you can go, wait, I'm not done. I'm going to add another terrible argument, and somehow 0 plus 0 is going to equal 1. This is Terrence Howard level thinking here. I've heard the courtroom analogy before, or that there's a cumulative case. But a courtroom case is built on reliable testimony and evidence. Not all testimony is alike. There are experts, for example, that come in and talk, not just people who saw it. Some eyewitnesses have faulty memory. We tend to prefer physical evidence in any case. Even in cases like DUIs or speeding tickets, we have breathalyzers and blood tests and radar readings. But also, crimes are like stories. We have a series of events, motives, movements of individuals in their lives. It is a narrative that needs to be told, and it is up to the prosecutor to unfold it and say why that makes sense. Furthermore, the event might be one at which only the victim and perpetrator were present, no one else, so there are no eyewitnesses. We have to piece together what happened, or likely happened, somehow. But Mike Winger's God is said to be a being that wants a relationship with me, and if I fail to believe in him and worship properly, he will punish me for all eternity. He isn't a story, and he should make himself knowable somehow. But I do like God compared to a crime. Seems fitting, given how he acts in the Bible.
Misconception number 5. Magic.
What? Did you worry your audience would get bored, or do you want to erase the bad reflection on which these are built? Young Mike Winger's like that creepy uncle.
Strawmen, dishonest Scotsmen, and yummy ad hominems.
Gross. Seriously, man, no one wants to witness that.
Whenever you enter into a YouTube video discussion, you end up finding out that people have these terms. Circular reasoning, they say. No true Scotsman, they say. Straw man, they say. But have they actually defeated an argument simply by throwing a label on it? No, of course not. It's not enough to use a logical term. You must demonstrate why that term is appropriately being used against such an argument. So don't just label it, demonstrate it.
So I guess you need your critics to do your thinking for you. Is that what you're admitting here? Like someone who yammers on saying, I believe in God because the Bible says he exists. And when you ask why the Bible is true, you say, well, God says the Bible is true. Do I actually need to lay out why it is circular thinking? Or when a Christian says a certain denomination isn't a real Christian, do I need to explain why I think that's a no true Scotsman? If someone points out flaws with the label, snarky or not, it behooves you to go back and check or ask. But really, I guess, people who say you're creating a straw man are treating you as if you're an intelligent being capable of self-reflection and thought. And I guess you want to have a toddler-like discussion of, but why, mommy, but why? Why are there trees? Because they grow from little seeds. Why are there seeds, mommy? Because trees produce seeds that germinate and grow. But why do they produce seeds, mommy? Well, when a mommy tree really loves a daddy tree, they want to make little baby trees. But why? Listen, Jimmy, no eternal regression, so God damn it.
Misconception number 6. Finally, we come to it, the God of the gaps, misconception.
Hitchcock, you ain't. For fuck's sake, this is ridiculous. It isn't really funny in that voice. Ugh, just stop already. I got a happy hour to get to.
People will often say God of the gaps in response to an argument for belief in God, saying that your reasons to believe in God are only because of a gap in scientific knowledge. This statement is often made by the likes of Richard Dawkins, Samuel Harris, Christopher Hitchens, Neil deGrasse Tyson, and there's a problem with it.
Oh no, you all. There's a problem with it, and he just name-dropped some famous atheists. Well, Tyson says he's an agnostic, but whatever. Let's hear Mike's problem. This ought to be good.
It's unfalsifiable.
I don't think you know what that word means. Like, if you say we don't fully know what happened at the beginning of the current presentation of our universe, why, how the singularity expanded, there's this point we can't get back to yet. Maybe we will develop a test someday, but right now we just don't know. And you say, well, God must have created the universe. You are undoubtedly sticking a God in a gap. But I think you mean there's no way to falsify the God hypothesis. So let's hear more.
What argument for the existence of God can't be accused of being a God of the gaps argument? Let me explain. Let's suppose that you give me all the reasons why you believe in gravity, and I respond with, that's just a gravity of the gaps argument.
Are you even serious right now? We might not totally understand everything about gravity, but we know it exists and we can even measure it. You know that G in G-force? So if gravity is part of an explanation, that is nothing like God. Fucking hell, Winger looks so smug about this.
We have a gap of knowing why things are falling, so you're just calling it gravity and saying gravity's real. What are you?
That's not how the theory of gravity works. I mean, I guess Winger heard about an apple falling on Newton's head, and he must think that's all there is to it. But there is tons of research dating back to Aristotle. I think it was one of the things he got wrong. Poor Aristotle. Of course, Newton thought of it as a force, and Einstein's relativity posits it as an effect of our curved spacetime. And this is all way beyond my pay grade to understand. But let's leave it at, even if we don't know everything about it, we notice that things fall down, in our perspective down, and we start calling that phenomenon gravity. That is way more a demonstration of existence than God.
What argument for the existence of gravity would pass this test? I mean, gravity is simply the most rational explanation for these series of events.
And I thought I didn't understand gravity. Again, even if we are stupid, When things fall, that is a phenomenon we can label gravity. There is more to it than that. We can try to understand why things fall and all that, and scientists have, and they have figures and experiments and maths and shit like that.
It's just downright brain draining to act like well-reasoned arguments for God's existence are the same as saying, we don't know what causes lightning, it must be God.
LOL, well-reasoned explanations for God. Can we just point out that several of the proofs he showed at the beginning are God of the gaps? Cosmological, God must have created the universe. Fine-tuning, the parameters of the universe are such that there must have been a God that tuned the universe. Infinite regress, can't imagine causes back infinitely, God. Particle physics, misunderstandings of the double slit, I think, God as observer. Even moral argument, because even though we think that we have morality because of evolution, we must have morality because God. And of course, in olden times, theists did think a God slung lightning down from on high until we had the real explanation. So,
Theists aren't generally promoting that every mystery out there is explained by God did it, any more than physicists are promoting the idea that every movement in the universe is caused by gravity.
I do appreciate the both sidesism here. Theists talking absolute rubbish about a deity no one can agree upon versus physicists who are using experiments and math to come to a model that most resembles the working of physical reality. Priceless.
Let's face it, no matter how good the argument is, it can be accused of being a God of the gaps argument and then just thrown aside without thinking about it.
Mike Winger says a true thing. Without a demonstrable God, we can just throw aside arguments in which it appears. Just like we can throw aside sovereign citizen arguments, the people who say they are the living man and not the corporate fiction set up by the US because their name appears in all caps.
If I'm going to discover the truth about God's existence, I can't start from a position of, I will only allow explanations that don't involve God, no matter how well reasoned they are.
Did I hear you correctly? Say that again.
If I'm going to discover the truth about God's existence, I can't start from a position of, I will only allow explanations that don't involve God, no matter how well reasoned they are.
Sure, if you are trying to establish God's existence, you should go looking for God. If you are looking to explain phenomena like gravity, or why we act as moral beings, or what the origin of the universe is, you should start from a place of, I don't know why this thing is. Let's start some observations. God of the gaps is observing a phenomenon, like, say, the start of the universe, and saying God did it because I don't have another explanation. By the way, 1 million YouTube time units ago, you said we should ask what evidence would demonstrate God. So you should think of that. What would be evidence of your God? Your God, by the way, who came to Earth to demonstrate himself a long time ago. So why can't he do that now?
That's assuming atheism and ending with atheism.
No, you should start from a place of agnosticism, imagining you don't know, and then looking at what can be demonstrated. Then you can decide what to believe. But if you start out assuming a God exists, and then shoving him in everything you see, you're not looking for truth.
Now, if we can avoid these 6 misconceptions, we can have a profitable YouTube experience. The first...
Simpler times. 2013 YouTube. I feel nostalgic. Gonna skip some here because Winger just says he's gonna start his proofs for God in the next video. He does some YouTube shtick. But I do want to share that this video ends with bagpipe music. That Scotsman comes back, and then there's this creepy ending.
Thank you for watching.
Fun times with Mike Winger, am I right? Well, what did you think of these misconceptions that Mike Winger has presented us? Put your comment in the comment section below, like where comments belong. And I don't know, can I say comments again? Yes, comment, and, like, subscribe, and all the YouTube stuffing. I love it when you do the YouTube stuffing. Algorithmo loves it when you do the YouTube stuffing. His consort Algorithma also loves it. They will reward you with all kinds of good YouTube recommendations. Just trust the wise Algorithmo and his consort Algorithma. And I'm just being very repetitive. Anyway, if you like what I do, if you like all the dumb comments I make, you can buy me a coffee. That link is also in the description below. Got some more Mike Winger coming up, maybe a comments video. It's all going to be stupid, people. Just, accept it. Bye for now.